everybody. This is David Ellefson from Megadeth, and you're listening to the Brutally Delicious Podcast.
Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. You've done a lot of stuff with me over the years with Brutally Delicious and the and your coffee cooking and your coffee thing, and we've done a lot with the girls too.
Yeah, Dalskin.
Yep, Dalskin. I couldn't think of the name of them. Anyway, so when you were writing this record, or when you were putting together this record, how did you guys come up with the songs that are actually going to be on it? Because I saw there's like some Wasp stuff and some really old school good stuff.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it was, Tom and I were just on the phone. The whole concept of it came up when we were looking at October, which is when we originally wanted to put out our original song LP, and we realized all of our touring is now pushed back until at least Q1 or Q2 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought it was kind of senseless to just drop a record without being able to promote it in any way. And it really, at the same time, we both said, why don't we just do a covers record? It literally came out of our mouths at the same time. And we just started just spitballing on songs. And, it just kind of, the Wasp song was Tom just said, he goes, oh my God, people always say I sound like Blackie. I'm like, no, you totally do, And then we reached back into some kind of really early stuff of my youth, Sweet, Bachman Turner Over.
Yeah.
Like old stuff, you know what I mean? So, I think when we did the Post Malone cover, Over Now, we took a very current modern artist and we sort of retroactively took it over into the metal world, right? And I think what we do now with this record is we can go back into our record collection and bring things current to today's modern music listener. And at the same time, of course, we've got fans, I do especially, over 4 decades now, who can relate to this stuff, that are like, oh my God, I grew up with that song too, So to me, it's just like a real bringing together of our whole, of many generations of rock and roll fans.
Right. I also think it's kind of interesting, the whole Post Malone mixing of genres too, because he's doing a lot with a lot of like hard rock metal kind of artists. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, Post, he's a rocker, man, and he found his niche and his sound in his original music, but he's clearly a fan of a lot of different stuff. I mean, he's got a Megadeth and a Pantera tattoos on him.
Oh, really?
And yet he covered some, so obviously some Nirvana stuff. So he's a very widespread, fan of music. And I think with our covers record that we're doing, we're the same, that it doesn't just have to be metal. It can be from different eras. And I think any rocker, and especially if you're a metalhead, but certainly any rocker, you just like great rock songs, period.
Right. To me, the 70s were really the thrust of great rock and roll. Guitar sounds started to sound good. Yeah.
Recording started to be much better. The 60s was sort of this experimental phase, but by the 70s, they seemed to start to get it locked down. And so to me, and then of course by the 80s, it was just completely over the top bombast.
Right.
So, to me, everything on this record is 70s and 80s era music.
Now, I don't know if I haven't seen a release title, a tracking list of it, and I don't know if you can release the info, but I'm curious, can you tell me what Wasp song you did?
Well, I can, only because we actually put it on our live stream last week. So yeah, we're doing Love Machine.
Oh, great. A good old one from the first record.
Yeah, which it's funny, Tom mentioned Wasp, and to me right away, Love Machine. That's probably my favorite Wasp song. And we kicked around a few of them, but then as we went through them, and of course our guitar player Andy Martinelli over in Italy, who's just amazing, and he can just play anything, and he's just got such great rock and roll fire to his sound and how he plays the guitar. I'd hit him up and say, hey, can you throw this one down? Hey, can you throw that one down? Hey, try this one. And you kind of get a sense, it's like being in any band, when the band members agree, like just kind of collectively agree on stuff, like you know that's the heart center of the sound that you should be going for.
Do you find it difficult? I mean, I guess everybody's sort of doing these cover things and trying to reinvent themselves in this weird pandemic era, but do you find it difficult doing that sort of thing? Or is it pretty second nature?
Not really. I mean, so much of what we do, I think, in making records now is collaborative across the seas, across the lands, across the internet. And we've learned how to work in that dynamic now. So when something like this pandemic hit, and while it was immediately kind of a quick adjustment, I think we've all adjusted. And, you see people doing, it's why I wanted Charlie Benante, we were talking to him and he was excited to jump in on something. And I mean, he's kind of the king of the YouTube, Zoom quarantine jams, on the internet. He's done some of the best ones. And so he was excited to play on this. And of course, he and we just did the big Kiss jam on the Mega Cruise.
Right.
He and I had done Metal Allegiance over the years. So, Charlie and I are already musically, we're already good friends.
And he's a pounder.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player, Not only just as part of the Big Four, but even off campus with the Big Four, just he and I, to get Metal Allegiance, these various things we've done. We've had musical experiences away from just Megadeth and Anthrax, which is you kind of get to know. It's sort of like sitting down and breaking bread with somebody. It's like sitting down and breaking musical bread with somebody.
Right.
You get to know them even better when you're out of your sort of environment of your own band setting, and you get to because it becomes a conversation. Music is a conversation between musicians, and when you're on a stage or you're in the studio and you're either recording or you're performing that conversation, you get to really learn each other's voice, if you will. A musical voice that each person has. And to me, that's always the most fun in making any record or any all-star session, of course, is you really have to be in the moment. And it's, it's just, I've enjoyed it so much. I'm glad that I get to have both. I'm glad I get to have a band like Megadeth where obviously we come together with a very dedicated, focused purpose. And then I get to have these other moments where it can stretch out and sort of not be so defined by anything other than letting that moment evolve and develop itself between us.
Right. And I think it's also cool because the fans embrace all that stuff too, no matter which which genre. You're still Dave Ellefson and you still have that connection, even if it's from Megadeth. They're going to embrace the, your Post Malone stuff and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, at 55 years of age, I'm the same guy in my heart that I was when I picked up the bass at age 11.
Right.
Today I've got some bass. I went to my storage unit. I pulled out a bunch of basses because I'm doing doing a couple of takeovers, one for EMG pickups, and then on Friday I'm doing one for Jackson guitars. And so, I'm pulling out instruments that, quite honestly, I haven't seen in a while. And it's, it's like seeing long-lost family members, We're having a family reunion during the pandemic at my house. I'm busting out all these basses, and I'm remembering why I fell in love with them. I remember why I bought them, or why I acquired them, and the records I may have used them on, and some of them have some shortcomings that I remember as well. It's
right.
Like, oh yeah, that's right. There's something about this bass. Kind of like probably like an uncle. You're like, yeah, there is something about that guy I never did like.
Right.
And but I'm having a lot of fun, man. I mean, this pandemic thing is really, despite all that it is and the negative around it, it's really inspired, engaged, and opened me up creatively, and just every day there's just never enough hours in the day, man.
I think that's one of the few benefits of this whole thing is people are getting way more creative because you have to, and you have to be out there. But I think we're seeing a whole lot of not just like collaborations like this, but all kinds of things that are like that you wouldn't have normally seen.
Yeah, I'm convinced there's something they call the Super Bowl babies. 9 months after the Super Bowl, there's this whole population that's
right.
born, and I'm thinking the same thing's going to be happening from this. That there's going to be And it's going to be some non-traditional stuff. It isn't just going to be band who makes another record back on tour.
Right.
You know, that traditional trajectory of how we've always worked in this business is now going to change. It's going to change in the short term, and I think it's going to change in the long term. And, you know, what I found is you know, again, these Zoom collaborations, if all of a sudden I think we're realizing, man, we've always had this technology sitting here, and we can, you know, when forced to, we turn to it, and it becomes our friend. It doesn't become sort of this, daunting, you know, ethers of the internet we have to go down. All of a sudden it's like, wow, this is friendly, it's available to us, why not use it to make music?
So I've got a question for you. It's not really necessarily related to this in general, but you brought it up, and I was talking to Bobby Blitz about it the other day. Where do you see, and nobody's got a crystal ball, but where do you see this whole thing, like, how do you see the music business landing on the other side of this?
Well, look, it's the music business, it's the entertainment business, it's the gathering in large places together business, whether it's for a picnic, church, a soccer game, or a rock concert. You know,
right.
It's all the same. You know what I mean? It's like so many industries are affected by, you know, this just refraining from being able to gather, and you know, and it's long term. It's just not good for us as humans. You know, we're meant to be in fellowship with each other. We're meant to be in proximity,
right?
And that, so that you know, after a time, changes, you know, kind of the, you know, just sort of the arc of our kind of, I don't know, I guess maybe our soul to a little degree, you know,
right.
You know, really that's all going to a rock concert is, or a mini concert, quite honestly, is just that gathering in a room. You know, YouTube can't recreate that.
Never.
You know, there's nothing on the web that can recreate that. The feeling of being in a room, having a common moment together.
Yeah, with a bunch of like-minded people, right?
Yeah, that's ultimately what the live entertainment business is, you know, and it's, you know, so, you know, look, again, I think creatively it's probably been really good. I think creatively it's helped us reinvent in a lot of ways. I think that is going to continue. I think you're going to see collaborations across a lot of genres and spectrums that are going to continue, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Because in the end, we're all in the same boat, right? I mean, whatever genre you are, you're still a musician trying to, you got to make it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think once we are able to gather and go to concerts and festivals and all this stuff, you know, I think it also makes us realize that, you know, the biggest crowd isn't always doesn't have to be the best crowd, and it doesn't have to be the only crowd. You know what I mean? That sometimes it's these gatherings in these more intimate settings. I think a lot of us who have gotten used to playing to these big mobs and masses of people are going to find and maybe get back in touch with, you know, the more smaller intimate gatherings, you know, that how just dramatically we touch people, and how and how they touch us, quite honestly, as performers.
Right.
But, you know, the impact. You know, I'm lucky I grew up in Megadeth, because that band has always had that from our very first show. It was a very interactive thing between the band and the audience.
And it's almost like full circle, right? It's almost like going back to the days when you were cutting your teeth.
Yeah, in a weird way, you know, it is. And I think it's easy, you know, sometimes the bigger the crowd you play, as exhilarating as that is, you know, oftentimes it's like playing to an oil painting, you know, the crowd is so far away.
Right.
And you almost can't even see all the activity, versus when they're right up in front of you and you can see the whites of their eyes. You know, sometimes, you know, the smaller crowd is more unnerving, because, you know, you can't hide any of the, you know, is my zipper down, or should I hit a wrong note, or,
right.
You know, I mean, you know, sometimes those little things, yet, you know, really, what are we paying to see when we go to see a live performance? We're paying to see the human moments.
Yes.
And I think a lot of this whole thing is getting us back in touch with connecting with the human moments.
That's awesome. So one last question about the record, and I'll let you go, because I told Sean I would keep it keep it short. But
Perfect.
how did you guys divide up who was picking what? Did everybody just get like some of the earlier songs that were with them from the beginning, or was there a general consensus? Or
Well, it's funny. I think, my experience with this is songs call out to certain people. And so as we were, working on songs, like there's one in particular, like Queen, that we're doing, that we were thinking, ironically, that it's not a Freddie Mercury song, so we didn't have to deal with that. But we thought, like, who the hell is going to sing this chorus?
Right.
And then we realized, wait a minute, we have somebody already in the organization, and that's me mocking Spinal Tap.
oh yeah, there you
Somebody
go.
already in the organization.
Yeah.
And we realized we've got it, and we can do this. And then that just sort of led to us reaching out to some other people to come in and lend, their specialty, which is their nuance, that adds the sort of the cherry on top with that stuff, So it's, it's really cool. In probably a week or two, we'll roll out the track listing and who's playing on it, and
Awesome.
we're actually mixing some tracks right now. We're going to do the big mix on it later this month into early August, but we're actually mixing a couple of tracks right now.
Sweet.
So, it's nice. We're going to be able to kind of put this out piecemeal, keep everybody excited, and keep us excited too. And
Yeah,
it's really a fun process.
That's awesome. David, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Good luck with everything. We'll talk to you soon. Stay safe.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Hello out there. Yes, hello out there, everyone. I'm Hal Schwartz.
And I'm Flynn McLean. Together we host None But the Brave, a podcast dedicated to the music and career of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce and E Street Band are on tour right now for the first time in 6 years, and we're taking a detailed look at what's happening on stage in our bi-weekly episodes.
We've also been recently joined by some very exciting guests, including rock journalist Warren Zanes and Stephen Hayden, Backstreet's Magazine founder Charles Cross, and Barstool's Kirk Minahan.
If you're a diehard Springsteen fan, this is the show for you.
So please subscribe to None But the Brave on your favorite podcasting platform, and we hope to see you further on up the road.
Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you.